The propaganda model proposed by Herman and Chomsky isn't about overt censorship. It's about how structural economic forces subtly filter information in ways that serve dominant elites, even in so-called free democracies. Below is a breakdown of the 5 filters with analysis and real-world illustrations. 1. Ownership. The corporate media structure. Media are large profit-seeking businesses controlled by and interlinked with even larger conglomerates. Herman and Chomsky core idea: mass media outlets are often owned by a handful of massive corporations. This concentration of ownership creates vested interests in maintaining the status quo, suppressing dissent, and avoiding risks to profitability or elite relationships. Today's example: Disney owns ABC, Marvel, National Geographic, and Hulu. Comcast owns NBC, Universal Pictures, and Sky. News Corp owns Fox News, Wall Street Journal, The Times, UK. Implication: radical or anti-corporate viewpoints are systematically excluded. Editorial decisions are made with corporate reputation, investor relations, and advertising clients in mind. Case in point: coverage of climate change is often muted or softened by media owned by companies with fossil fuel ties, or advertisers in the automotive and energy industries. 2. Advertising. The real customer is the advertiser. The news product must serve the needs of the advertisers. Herman and Chomsky core idea: since most media outlets rely on ad revenue, they tailor content to attract and retain audiences who are valuable to advertisers, not necessarily to inform citizens. Modern example: YouTube and Facebook creators face demonetization if their content is deemed controversial or not brand safe. Algorithms promote engaging and advertiser-friendly content, lifestyle, entertainment, over deep political analysis. TV example: television news avoids topics like corporate labor abuse, drug pricing, or anti-capitalist movements that could offend pharmaceutical or finance industry advertisers. Implication: news is shaped by what advertisers tolerate, not by democratic or journalistic ideals. Investigative journalism is underfunded. Infotainment thrives. 3. Sourcing. Dependency on official and elite sources. Media cannot afford to offend sources of news without losing access. Herman and Chomsky core idea: media rely heavily on government officials, corporations, and think tanks for information, not grassroots sources or dissenting perspectives. This creates a mutual dependence between power and press. Example: war reporting. US and Western media during the Iraq War, 2003, used Pentagon press briefings and embedded reporters, resulting in framed narratives about WMDs. Alternative voices, e.g., Iraqi civilians, anti-war scholars, were ignored or delegitimized. Today's example: tech journalism. Tech reporters often rely on press releases from companies like Meta, Google, and Apple, leading to celebratory narratives of innovation without critique of surveillance or labor practices. Implication: news becomes filtered by elite agendas, limiting independent or oppositional viewpoints. 4. Flak. Disciplinary action against dissent. Flak is a means of disciplining the media. Herman and Chomsky core idea: flak refers to negative responses, lawsuits, smear campaigns, advertiser boycotts, used by powerful entities to intimidate or punish media that stray from the accepted narrative. Examples: whistleblower coverage of Edward Snowden and WikiLeaks was met with flak in the form of national security accusations. Reporters covering Israeli apartheid claims face accusations of anti-Semitism and career damage. Advertiser boycotts have been used to pressure networks to fire controversial hosts. Implication: media organizations, fearing backlash, practice preemptive self-censorship, softening language, avoiding conflict-heavy stories, or steering away from sensitive power topics. 5. Ideology. Anti-communism right-pointing arrow, anti-terrorism right-pointing arrow, anti-China. A common enemy provides a unifying function for elites. Herman and Chomsky core idea: during the Cold War, the dominant ideological filter was anti-communism. Today, new ideological enemies, such as terrorism, misinformation, Russia, or China, play similar roles. Example: post 9/11 US media, any questioning of the war on terror, the Patriot Act, or NSA surveillance was framed as unpatriotic. Muslim voices were systematically excluded or framed as threats. Today's example: Chinese companies like TikTok are portrayed as national security threats, often without equivalent scrutiny of US tech firms. Critical voices on NATO, Ukraine, or Gaza are dismissed as pro-authoritarian, extreme, or conspiratorial. Implication: this filter frames the world in us versus them binaries and justifies suppression of dissent as protection from dangerous ideologies. Final reflection: the propaganda model shows us that media bias is not about individual bad actors. It's about institutional incentives, economic constraints, and structural routines that ensure elite interests remain protected. To decode modern news and media, we must go beyond headlines and ask, who owns the platform? Who funds the program? Who provides the quotes? Who punishes dissent? What ideology is being reinforced? Media doesn't need to lie. It only needs to tell part of the truth, consistently, selectively, and powerfully.